Okay, so let's take a look at our new template set, Some Like It Hot. What I thought we would do is start out, just take a look at some of the samples that we've put together with these. So what we have here is a series of 8 fire or flame dresses plus an additional 5 flame effects. So we'll kind of step through here, take a quick look at some of the options. So here's some of the flame effects here. Another one here. And then kind of a final one here that we call Inferno. So these, of course, the flame dresses are really geared at dance type of images and dance composites. But some of the other flame effects work really well for sports and things as well. So I think that you'll find a lot of use out of these. So let's take a look at just some of the options that we have in here and kind of how things are set up. And then maybe we'll step through and do a couple kind of tips to get the best results out of these things. So let's open up just our fire dress one here. So if we turn this on, you'll see right away we have kind of a silhouette of the pose that this kind of works really well with as a default. So I thought the silhouettes would help just to give you an idea if you're going to photograph maybe some seniors or photograph some dancers, or it just kind of give you a guideline for, if you shoot something close to this is going to go together really quickly. But if we take a look at our layers, let's expand this group. You'll see, for example, in our group here called Front Side Flames, if we expand this, we have a lot of layers in here. The upper portion of the dress, we have some layers in here, so that these can be tweaked and manipulated for your different subjects. Okay, so these are going to help you be able to fit these to different subjects, because this pose is not going to be exact, every time you photograph someone. So I wanted to be sure to leave these layers so that these can be tweaked really quickly and easily. So let's take a look at this. If we wanted to put a similar pose into this one, let's collapse this down. What you're going to notice is within each of these folders we have a subject group, which I have highlighted in orange. If we expand our subject group, you're going to see within that we have a folder called Place Subject in This Group. So this is also where the sample pose silhouette is at. Okay, so if we turn that off, we see just our flames here. So what I would suggest starting out is just select the sample pose, the layer, and then let's go grab another dancer image here. So we're going to grab her, we're going to drag her over into our document and drop it right here. And then what I'm going to do is just try and line this up and see how close this gets to our sample silhouette, kind of right off the bat here. And we can even zoom in for a little bit of a closer look. And so what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to transform, so Control or Command T, and just rotate her to where she's kind of lined up about like the silhouette is. And let's make her just a little bit larger. And of course we can see, the arms and everything, they aren't exact, but it's fine because, when these dancers do this jump, they're really going to get in this similar pose every time. So that's kind of the beauty of these, that they should be pretty close if you're kind of following the poses there. Alright, so we're going to look at lining her up. And at this point, I'm just going to turn the silhouette off. I don't need that in there right now, so we'll just turn that one off. And now, what I'm really looking at is, the dress is kind of flared out a bit, so we know her legs are going to fit in there. So I'm really looking at this upper body portion. So let's zoom in here and take a look again. So as I move her around, I want to be sure that the dress kind of fits along her back here. And so really the only thing that looks like that we need to tweak here is just this upper body portion right here. Alright, so to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to just expand our front side flame. So this is all the flames on the front side of the subject. We're going to expand this group. And I'm going to turn off the upper dress portion and see, okay, so we have the upper dress of just kind of this texture of flames in here. And then we've got some flames here that are kind of running up the front side of the body here. So now to find these, all I'm going to do is just turn these flame layers off one at a time And so this is the main one that I want to work with right here. Okay, so I'm going to select this one, and let's zoom out just so we kind of get an idea here of the overall. And so I think what I'm going to do is just simply enough Control T to transform this, and then I'm just going to rotate this a little bit, and then we'll push it back up here just so it fits that shape there a little bit better. And then let's turn these back on. So I'm okay with that, following that shape. Let's turn the upper dress back on. And so now, really the only issue is I kind of want to fill this gap in here. So we've got two of these upper flame layers. We've got this one and this one. So let's just take this one, same thing, Control T, and maybe let's just rotate a little bit and then just kind of drag it over to fill up the gap. And I like that. We're good there. Looks like everything fits. Everything's where it should be. So that's one of the things you should notice. The flexibility with all of the little layers here are going to allow you to really customize these to your subject. And to be, should be able to do it fairly quickly and easily is the goal here. So once we have this, now let's take a look at a couple other options. So one of the things that I like to do, if I have a subject here where, for instance, on her legs, where we can see some of the skin, maybe she's not wearing like a long leotard or something like that. This is just me personally. What I like to do is go to my subject layer and add a blank layer above that, and then I want to clip this layer to our subject. So I'm just going to hold Alt or Option and click in between the layers, and we'll see now we get the area where that's clipped. And I'm just going to take a black brush, and I'll keep my flow pretty low, around 30%. And nice soft brush, and I'm just going to darken the legs here with black. Okay, and I'm just going to let that fade with a soft brush on down the leg like this. Now the reason I like to do that is just to kind of fake this effect that there's some shadowing going on under this dress onto the leg. Okay, and I just find that for me personally that gives a little bit of a nice, just kind of cleaned up touch there. Okay, so that's all that's about. So anywhere I see skin, I'll usually darken that around the under part of the upper dress here. So now we can close our subject group up here. I will point out in the subject group, you will notice that we have a highlight layer here. And so what that highlights layer doing, if we take a close look at, say, her face, if I turn that off, you'll see by default she has these much cooler highlights. So we automatically have these in place to warm up your subject highlights to help match the overall tone here. So again, the goal of this is that you can drop them in quickly, easily, and kind of create these really cool effects. So let's close our subject group up. So once we have our dress to fit here, now we've got some background options here. And what these are some different kind of smoke and ambient type of layers here that can be turned on one at a time. You could change the opacity of these. So some of these opacities are preset. Feel free to change those. You can move or transform them. So Command or Control T, we could rotate this, reposition it if we like it somewhere better. And you don't have to use all of these. You just kind of find the ones that you kind of, you like the effect of what's going on. And there's some, several different options here. Again, just to give you some variety. And we even have a ground glow in here. Not necessarily needed for this jump pose, so I think we'll leave it off for now. So I kind of like that. That gives me a good bit of kind of smoky atmosphere going on in the background. I really like that. And so what we'll do is now, once we have our subject in place, we like the kind of background that we have here, we're just going to turn our color grading layers on. I'll talk about this facial highlight in just a minute with the next one. But for our color grading, turn that one on, that one on, that one on, and that's just going to kind of richen and deepen the colors and start to bring everything together there. Okay, so it should be as simple as that in bringing these subjects in. So let's take a look at another one. We'll turn these off. And let's collapse this one down, turn it off. So let's take a look at, say, the number 2 pose here. So we'll expand this group out. We'll open up our subject group, and we can see within the subject we have this group here, place group subject in this group. And we have our little silhouette here just as a good guideline for what the pose will fit by default. And so I'm going to come and we're just going to grab the subject that we used for this one just to show a couple other kind of tips here to kind of get best results, okay? So now she should line up pretty perfectly because it's the same subject. Again, if you needed to tweak things, then you would come up into these front side or the back side flames, and of course if we expand this, you can see all the different flames here that make up the dress and make up the upper portion of the dress. So you can manipulate those to make them fit your subject. But let's look at a couple tips as far as kind of getting best results out of these, okay? So one of the things that I like to do is add some edge lighting. And for instance, on her legs where they're dark into the background and things, the easiest way and the best looking way in my opinion to do this, and again not very difficult, we're going to double click on our subject layer, and I'm going to click out here in the blank part of the layer. So if I double click, I'm going to get into our layer style panel. So from the layer style, what I'm looking at is this option called Inner Glow. Okay, so I'm going to turn that on, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select a dark orange color. I've already got one selected, but you could use your eyedropper and pick like a dark orange from the flames here. But that's basically what I'm looking for, is this kind of dark rusty type of color. And so we're going to start with this set to normal. Okay, normal blend mode, and the size and the range are what we want to play with here. So what I'm looking at while this is set to normal, I'm looking in the shadows, so kind of under the arm, around the legs here, and I'm just tweaking the size of this to kind of create a little edge glow. And if I bring that range higher, the softer it gets, lower the harder it gets. Okay, so I want it kind of high, nice soft edge. And for this one, I may brighten this orange up just a little bit. So let's come a little bit brighter like that. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to click OK and click OK again. So now you'll see that under our subject we have an effects attached to it. But what we want to do is we want to detach this. So we're going to right click and create a layer out of this. Now that this is on its own layer, I'm going to hold Alt or Option, click on our mask, and just hide it with a mask for now. And now we're going to go right back into the layer style again, so double click out on the layer. We're going to add another Inner Glow, blend mode from normal to color dodge. And now I'm looking at skin highlights versus shadows, okay? So kind of looking at the lighter parts of the skin up here. And so I'm going to keep kind of this dark, rusty looking orange. That looks pretty good right there. And I'm probably going to leave the range and size. I shouldn't really need to tweak those. So I'm going to click OK. So the only thing I really changed was the blend mode. I'm going to right click, create a layer once again out of that effect. Alt or Option, click the mask and hide it. So now all I need to do is take a white brush, and we'll zoom in here so we can take a look. So white brush, I'll keep the flow down around 30. Soft brush, and I've got the highlight layer selected, so up here around the arms where there's a highlight, I'm going to kind of paint this little edge glow in that we added. So just fairly quickly, you could even come through and hit the hair a little bit to give it a little bit of edge glow. Come down the back of the arm, a little bit of the legs here. Okay, so there's our highlight side of things. So now on the shadow side, same thing. We'll select the mask for this, white brush, and now I'm going to come underneath the arm and just start to add some of that edge glow in. And we'll come down the leg and both sides of the leg here. And so again, that's just going to give a little bit of this type of edge glow effect. We can see here, looks like I didn't push my subject quite into place here, but just to show you another example, if we wanted to tweak this dress to fit a little bit better here, let's say this was a different subject. Let's go to our front side flames, and so if I turn off the upper dress, that's the first thing I like to check. We've got this one piece right here, you know, that we could tweak. So if I turn these flames off until I find that piece, there it is right there. Alright, so what I'm going to do is Control or Command T to transform. And now if I didn't want to rotate, let's say I like the bottom part and I just wanted to fix this, what I can do while I'm in my transform is right click, and we can actually warp these layers. So with the warp grid up, I'm just going to click and drag and kind of pull that into place, right, like so. And click our check. Now let's turn these layers back on. Turn our upper dress back on. And on the upper dress, let's see what we got here. So let's take this portion of the upper dress, we'll transform this, Control T, and now maybe I'll just kind of widen that just a little bit. So, like so. And so again, you can see it's quick little easy tweaks to get those things to fit in there the way that we want them. That's the goal with the whole thing. So now we've got our subject in there. We've added some edge highlighting just to give it a little bit more interest really quickly and easily. But now we have a dancer who has a standing pose. So now I want to drop down and I want to add this ground glow in. Okay, so now, good thing is we can move this as needed. So I'll just grab the move tool. Let's slide this glow up to where it's under her foot. Okay, something like so. And so now, as with any composite where you're putting someone on a ground, the important thing is that we have some shadowing. But I want to show you how easily we can do this. So what I'm going to do, if I'm going to put a shadow in just to keep things organized, I'm going to go back to the subject group, and underneath my subject I'm going to add a blank layer. And then let's zoom into her foot here. A little bit of lag there, but that's okay. Alright, so I'm going to take a black brush, I'll keep it low, 30%, soft edge, and I'm just going to paint a few light strokes right like this, right under her foot. Okay, nothing complicated. And then I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, and Motion Blur. And I'm going to have that motion blur set to an angle of 0, so it's going horizontal. And then I'm just going to play with this distance just to makes it kind of a nice soft feather out from the foot on each side. And click OK. And if we zoom back out, that's all we really need to give a slight indication that there's a shadow, under her foot there. And so if we wanted to tweak this more, let's just collapse this down. Again, we could play with different background smokes and textures and things like that. But let's say we wanted to add a reflection in here. So let's say we like that, and now we wanted to put a reflection of her. I want to show you how quick and easy that can be as well. So we're going to take this layer, this group that everything's in, okay, right here, and I'm going to duplicate this group. So Command or Control J. And now I'm going to right click on the group and we're going to just merge this, okay? So merge group right here. And then once this merge is complete, we're going to change our blend mode from normal to screen. And now I'm going to transform, Command or Control T. I'm going to right click and flip this vertically. And then I'm simply going to drag this down and line it up right under the existing foot, right like so. And then I'm going to drop the opacity a little bit, okay? Because we just want this to look like a reflection, like maybe she's on a shiny floor here, okay, and it's picking up some glow from the flames. So something about like that. And just as a final tweak, if I really want to polish up this reflection, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a layer mask. I'm going to grab my brush, and this time I'm going to use black, and I'll just keep that low flow, and I'm just going to fade this bottom portion a little bit like so. Alright, so right about like that, and we can quickly add a little ground reflection in there. And so once we have our reflection in, we're happy with everything. Now we're going to come back up to our finishing layers. I said I was going to talk about this facial highlight boost, and what this is it's just a layer designed to kind of pop the highlights on the face a bit more so you keep that attention on your subject. So what we need to do is make sure the mask is selected and it's black by default, so that we can take a white brush and we're going to paint just all along the face here, and this layer is set up just to brighten those facial highlights a bit, so that if we zoom out and take a look, You can see as we turn this off and on, we just get a little bit of pop on those facial highlights. So now we turn our color grading on. We keep that little facial highlight pop to keep some of that attention. Of course, you could always change the opacity if you wanted a little bit stronger, a little bit less. You know, feel free to play with opacities. That's the beauty of the layers in here. So something like that, we'd save that, and we could call that one done, and I think it looks killer. So let's keep looking around here. We'll turn our color grading back off. To reset this facial highlight boost, all that I do is just delete the layer mask and alt click and add a new one here. Okay, so let's turn these layers we added off. Let's turn this group off. So let's take a look at one of the graphic options here, and let's maybe do these swirls. I think these are pretty cool. I like these. So in these swirls, just to show you that it doesn't have to be just dancers, okay? I've got a dancer silhouette in here to show you kind of how it's pre-set up. But even at this, if I expand this group, and you can see we have front side and back side flames here again. They can all be individually tweaked and rotated and warped and everything else you'd like to do. So let's go into our subject group. We're going to open up this one, place subject in this group. We're going to select our sample pose. And now let's take this kid, the soccer ball, and let's drag him over and drop him in. Alright, so he's a little big. You could leave him large here. Again, this is totally up to what you like the looks of. I think maybe I'll drop him down just a little bit. I kind of like something about like that. Let's turn our sample pose off. Alright, so something like that kind of works. And then again, you'll take notice the subject highlights are already attached, which is going to warm up all his highlights to help him match the flames. Again, the goal here is ease of use for you guys so that you can just kind of drop things in and go. One thing I would like to do, usually if I have their legs running out of the frame, is I would just add a layer mask to my subject. Black brush with a soft edge. And personally, I would just kind of fade that up a little bit. And then we can play around with our background smoke. I don't really want it showing behind the legs down there. So let's turn our ground glow off, and now let's find some smoky options that we like here. And then maybe want to pull some of these around so they kind of extend out. That looks good. Let's pull this one out this way. That looks good. So again, just kind of dropping in, letting those layers kind of wrap around and create some sort of effect there that you like the looks of. I really like that. Quickly, easily. Same thing, facial highlight boost. We can grab a white brush and we can paint some of these in just to pop those facial highlights out a little bit more. Yeah, it looks good. Turn our color grade on, and we could save that and be good to go. So one last thing that I'd like to mention here that we have in here as an option is if we open up any of our groups here, you will take notice that with each flame set, so the front side and the back side, we have some coloring options here with hue saturation layers. Okay, so we can see like front side flame color shift. If I turn that on, we can shift the color of these flames. So right now it's set to red, so if we turn that one on, turn this one on for the backside flames, and then also in the background above the smokes and the environmental kind of effects here, we have a background shift, so we can turn that one on as well. So we can quickly come in now and just go for a whole different look. Okay, so if you want to kind of just do something a little more mystic or match school colors or something, we can do that as well really easily. So again, I think that you'll find, and I hope that you'll find, that these work not just for dance, but there's a whole host of other options that they work really well for also. And again, to change the colors of these, they're just hue saturation layers. So we're just going to go to our properties window by just clicking on the thumbnail here, and now all we have to do is shift this hue, and we can change that. We can change how saturated the color is. and just whatever color that you like, you kind of match it up. Let's say we like that yellow. Well, I would just take note of my settings right here, 63 and 87. So then I would drop down to my background flames, and I would make these match. 63. Oh, let me retype that correctly. 63, 87, and that's going to match. Same with our background. We'll drop down to this one, 63, 87, and now our background's going to match. So again, guys, I hope you see that this is quick, it's easy, and can create some really cool epic looking images. I hope this video helps you and helps you get to where you can quickly tweak these things out. I can't wait to see what you guys create with these. Thanks.